wake up. No more distractions, no more co-host review shows. Just never reading slasher books for slashaholics. I'm done with those damn review shows, done with being someone's co-host. I'm just narrating slasher books for the slashaholics. And when Jason walks in with his machete, or when you cross paths with Myers, or you dream of Freddy, whatever the tale, I'm gonna read it for you, cause I'm the 80s fucking slasher librarian Josh LaRue. Whatever I read, whatever you hear, there's one thing I'll promise year after year: you're gonna get the best of my best, this I promise you, cause I'm back in that fucking bloody slasher groove. Because the librarian is back in the slasher groove. The librarian is back in that slasher groove. That's a promise from Josh LaRue. Slasher books both old and new, written by me and written by you. Yup, now I'm back, I'm back. No more distractions, no more co-host reviews. The librarian is back in that slasher crew. Just never reading slasher books for slashaholics. The librarian is back. I even wrote my own take on Jason and Freddy. Started with quarantine and then I was ready, so I sent Krueger to space in celestial slumber. Then Jason went primal and the rafters had his number. My audiobooks have crossed 75. Now let's hit 100 and have a fucking good time. The librarian is back in the slasher groove. The librarian is back in that slasher groove. Just never reading slasher books for slashaholics. The librarian is back. Even wrote my own take on Jason and Freddy. Started with quarantine and then I was ready, so I sent Krueger to space in celestial slumber. Then Jason went primal and the raptors had his number. My audiobooks have crossed 75. Now let's hit 100 and have a fucking good time. The librarian is back.
A Nightmare on Elm Street 6, Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare. The fan novelization by Jeremy Terry. Chapter 16, Altered Realities. The early morning sun was peeking over the horizon, coloring the sky in brilliant hues of pink, orange, and blue. The beauty of the scene was entirely lost on the van's two occupants as Maggie pulled it into a parking spot outside the shelter and killed the ignition. They sat in stunned silence for a moment, listening to the steady tick of the cooling engine. So much had changed in so short a time. The world was so much bigger and full of newly discovered dark corners and recesses where shadowy things waited with sharp tooth and claw. Finally, it was the teenage girl who shattered the silence. She turned two wide eyes on Maggie and asked, "What the fuck are we supposed to say when they start asking questions about Carlos, Spencer, and John?" Maggie stared through the dusty windshield at the spray painted adorning the shelter's facade, hoping that the street art might coalesce into an answer. It did not. She put her hands on the dashboard and began to claw at it absent-mindedly. "We'll tell them you, Carlos, and Spencer followed me to Springwood, and that Carlos, Spencer, and John ran away. Anything else and they'll lock us both up. I need time to think." Tracy studied the older woman's hands for a moment and then put her own on them, stopping the digging before Maggie's fingernails broke and began to bleed. "Listen, whatever happened, it wasn't your fault." Maggie nodded to orderly Kelly, who had stepped out of the shelter's front door and was watching them with his hands on his hips. "I wonder if he and the others will see it that way." The conversation went both better and much worse than Maggie expected. They were sitting in one of the counseling rooms on the ground floor, Kelly sitting quietly with his arms crossed over his broad chest as she spun her wild tale. He stared at her, his eyebrows crawling further and further up his forehead until she was sure they would just disappear into his hairline. He stared without speaking, listening intently until her words ran out, and she sat staring back, waiting for his response. Kelly leaned back in his seat, with the air of someone trying to decide if he was in on the joke or the brunt of it. "What the hell are you talking about?" Maggie frowned in confusion. I'm talking about Carlos Spencer and the John Doe. They were all here yesterday. Kelly uncrossed his arms and stood with a laugh. I think you've been handling too many cases, Maggie. I handle the paperwork for every new intake we receive. We've never had those kids here, and I would have remembered any new arrivals. Maggie stood and joined the orderly by the door, blocking his way before he could walk out into the hallway and away from her. What do you mean? You know each of those kids? Hell, you took a pipe bomb from Spencer's property yesterday morning. You brought John Doe to see me 48 hours ago. You have to remember something, anything. Kelly paused, his brow furrowed in thought, and Maggie thought she saw the faintest light go on behind his dark eyes. I do remember something, he said, but it was only a dream. A dream? Yeah, Kelly said, laughing again. I only just remembered it. It was about some kids like the ones you described. I don't remember their names, though. Anyways, it was just a dream. Will you excuse me? I need to make a round. Just a dream, right, Maggie said, as she stepped aside, her mind a whirl of fear and confusion. How could it be that no one remembered the 3 lost boys? How could something be so sinister and powerful that it could wipe their very existence from the world after it snuffed out their lives? This train of thought led her to another. What did that evil thing have planned for the rest of them? She felt tears prick her eyes and fought to hold them back. That wasn't the place. Not there in front of the shelter's residents and her co-workers. She turned down the hallway, striding fast, not caring if people looked at her strangely, only caring that they not see her fall completely apart. She reached her office, slammed the door behind her, and turned the light on. She stood panting in the yellow glow from the bulb, her long hair damp with sweat, her cheeks wet with tears that fell whether she wanted them to or not. She stepped towards her desk, needing the normalcy that came with sitting behind it, needing something to anchor her sanity to the insane world spinning out around her. The light flickered, bringing intermittent darkness that was not empty. Light, dark, the sound of breathing behind her. Maggie turned, shaking like a leaf, to stare at the pale visage of John. He stood in the corner, his clothes caked with dried blood, his skin the pallid color of a corpse. The light came on and he vanished. It went off and he was there again. Something cold gripped her heart as she watched him lift one hand and point at her with an accusatory finger. "It's not a boy," he rasped in a dead voice. The light came on and stayed on, banishing the ghost and every trace that he'd been there. Except Maggie crept forward on shaking knees that threatened to spill her to the carpet and knelt down where he stood. A single drop of red blood stained the pile. And then we get back and no one remembers Carlos, Spencer, or John, Tracy said. It's like they never existed. But I've been hearing some strange shit, like some of the kids dreamed about Carlos but don't remember him. I remember him, Doc Cotto said. I remember all of them. They were seated on the couch in his office, he sipping from a cup of hot tea, she nursing a steaming cup of fresh coffee. The smells mingled with the earthy scent of the incense burning on the corner of his desk to create a thick, pleasant aroma that calmed Tracy's nerves. Why do you remember? She asked. Because I'm in control of my dreams, and I can't be fooled by this thing you saw. The thing has a name, Maggie said as she walked into the room and plopped down between them on the sofa. It's Freddy. John kept trying to warn us about him, but I didn't listen. What did he look like? Doc asked. Maggie considered for a second and then pointed to the painting of the dream demons on the wall. He looked like a burned man, but he felt like He made me feel the same way I feel when I look at them." Doc looked where she was pointing and then nodded, as if that made perfect sense to him. "Whatever he is, he's fucking with the line between dreams and reality. He didn't just kill Carlos and the others, he erased them." "This can't be happening," Maggie said, running a hand through her disheveled hair. "Shit like this can't possibly exist." What if we're the ones who don't exist and all of this is Freddy's dream?" Tracy asked, her voice small and timid. She sounded like she was on the verge of tears. "You know better than that," Doc said, putting his arm around the teenager's shoulders and giving her a squeeze. "You're stronger than that." "Strong?" Tracy asked. She looked to the painting and the 3 monstrous worms that crawled over the stone gate. "Maybe. But are we strong enough to deal with something like that?" Outside the shelter, a small dog sat on the cracked sidewalk watching 2 young boys playing with little toy cars on the edge of the parking area. It sniffed, smelling the musky scent of children at play, and something else underneath that stung its nose. It stood, pacing back and forth, and then yelped when the concrete beneath its paws blazed with scalding heat. The 2 boys stopped playing and watched curiously as the little dog ran away howling with its tail between its legs. Smoke or steam rose from the place where it had stood a moment ago. They walked over and froze when they saw the figure of a man appearing on the sidewalk. His face was a burned brown, his eyes glowing yellow. He wore a brown hat and a red and green sweater, and there was a bladed glove on his right hand. The figure seemed to be frozen in mid-wave. The words, "1, 2, Freddy's coming for you," appeared over the drawing. They stared for a moment, and then looked to each other with an unspoken question in their gazes. Each understood it was time to be somewhere else. They ran off after the little dog. Neither would play there ever again. Chapter 17. It's Not a Boy. The arc sodium streetlights cast a Halloween jack-o'-lantern glow over the street outside Maggie's mother's house. Maggie parked in the driveway and jumped out, standing in the orange glow and trying to calm her frayed nerves. All she wanted was to charge into the house and let her mother have it. She wanted to give vent to all her fears and confusion for all the years with the recurring dream. Her mother could have given her some insight, could have suggested where it might stem from, but no. Instead, she had made the choice to keep secrets, the biggest secret she could possibly keep. Maggie had once had a different mother, and a different father. Fear and anger won out over rationale and calm. She jogged up the driveway to the front door of the cute one-story home and knocked on the door. She waited, listening, but there was no answer. She knocked again. Nothing. She dug into her pocket and pulled a set of keys out, fished through them until she found the one she was looking for, and let herself in. The lights were off. Her mother wasn't home. She made her way through the dark home, turning all the lights on as she went. She started with the closet off the living room, throwing things aside, not bothering to put them back. She found old tax documents, letters, and keepsakes from Maggie's school years. She moved on to her mother's bedroom, paused in the doorway. The room smelled of flowers. The curtains and bedspread were golden and patterned with a matching fleur-de-lis. There was an antique wooden footlocker at the foot of the bed. Maggie went to it and rummaged through the papers and photograph albums inside. She stopped for 1 second to stare at a picture of her and her mother at her 8th birthday party. She flipped through the entire album. There were no pictures of her at a younger age, no photo of her birth. Why would there be? After all, her mother wasn't there for it. She turned away from the footlocker and moved across the room to the closed closet door. She opened it and stepped inside. The scent of her mother engulfed her. It was lavender and roses, all soft and sweet. Mallory Burnham was all those things, soft and sweet, a caring mother. A part of Maggie knew that Mallory had kept the secret out of love. If her father was who she thought he was, Mallory had kept the secret to protect Maggie. Shouldn't that take the sting of the lie away? The emotional monster raging through Maggie's brain shouted that it did not, that the lie was a betrayal. Maggie looked around the closet and froze. A brown manila folder sat on a shelf above the hanging clothes, its edges curled by frequent handling and long years. She reached up and pulled the folder off the shelf. The cover felt smooth on her fingertips, like tanned leather, like tanned human skin, she thought with a shudder. Where had that morbid thought come from? She shook her head to clear it and opened the folder. A thin stack of papers lay inside, the heading of the first page reading Record of Adoption. A wallet-sized black and white photograph of a little girl with pigtails was attached to the documents. Maggie didn't need a color picture to know that the ribbons were red and the hair dark. Those ribbons were my favorites, she recalled as she ran a finger over the photo. Maggie? She turned with the file held out in front of her and stared at her mother standing in the open bedroom door with her purse dangling by its strap from one hand. The look of confusion on her face changed to shock when she realized what Maggie was holding. Oh my, Mallory said. She let the purse fall to the floor and grabbed the door frame to steady herself. Max, please put that down. I can explain. Maggie lifted the folder higher and glanced at the photo of the unsmiling girl. Why didn't you tell me? There was no reason to tell you, Mallory said. That place you came from was bad. You didn't need to know about it. You had me. I'm your mother. Maggie almost threw the folder into her mother's face. I had lies. My whole life is a lie. Color drained from Mallory's face, and she stumbled over to the bed and sank down onto it before she could fall on her face on the carpet. Tears brimmed in her eyes, and Maggie knew she'd hurt her badly. Maggie, I love you, Mallory said. That's not a lie. What we are to each other, that's not a lie. I may not have given birth to you, but you are my daughter, and I am your mother. I will always be your mother, no matter what that file says. Some of the anger fled from Maggie. A part of her wanted to go to her mom and hold her and tell her everything was okay. Another part of her knew that there were more important things at the moment. I want to know who they were, Maggie said. Mallory shook her head. Who they were is not important. Mom, please, I have to know. The tears spilled over Mallory's lashes and ran down her cheeks. She had to look away from Maggie's face, afraid that the intensity of her stare might burn her like the sun. Mallory looked down at her hands clasped on her lap. The adoption agency doesn't tell you. All I know is that it was a terrible place. Maggie walked over and grabbed her mother's chin, lifted it firmly so that they were staring into each other's eyes. Don't lie to me again. You know who they were. There were rules about no contact, Mallory said. Oh, there's been contact, Maggie said, letting her mother go. There's been that damn dream for 20 years. You should have told me. That damn dream, Mallory muttered. Stop talking about that damn dream. Maggie knew she wasn't going to get any more from her mother. She held the file to her side and walked towards the bedroom door. Mallory rose to her feet, one hand held out as if to hold Maggie in place. Wait, where are you going? Maggie paused at the threshold. I don't have time to talk anymore. I have to go. Where? Please, stay here and let's talk through this. Maggie, wait! It was no good. Maggie was already halfway down the hall. Outside, the night sky was dark with blooming, malignant clouds. Lightning flashed, lighting them from inside with witch light. The rolling thunder sounded like deep, wicked laughter. Flesh met canvas over and over again in a controlled onslaught. Tracy was a lioness, all power and fierce beauty as she danced around the heavy bag and pounded it with furious kicks and punches, each harder than the one before. Doc Cotto held the bag and watched her with his usual grin on his handsome face, unperturbed by the savageness of the attack. Punch, kick, punch, punch, punch. Tracy's fist punctured the canvas, sending little puffs of yellow stuffing floating down to the gym floor. She yanked her hand out with a grunt, and arms sweat from her forehead. Doc studied the damage and then walked over to a locker and pulled out a roll of silver electrical tape. "You look like you're getting ready to kill somebody," he said as he pulled a length of the tape from the roll and began to wrap it around the punching bag. "I'm getting ready to defend myself," she replied. She moved to one wall where a speed bag hung on a rusted hook and began to alternate left and right jabs in a steady rhythm. "Okay, Mike Tyson," Doc said, laughing. "You know you'd make one hell of a boxer. I'd hate to square off against you in the ring." A second passed, and a shadow seemed to come over Doc's face. The laughter died on his lips as he walked over and leaned against the wall near the speed bag. Tracy stopped punching and looked at him, both solemn, both on edge. "It's your mind he'll go after," Doc said. "Your fear." "I know," she said, resuming her punches. "It's like this. Physical discipline breeds mental strength. At least I hope it does. What else do I have against something like Freddy?" "All we can do is have faith," he said. "I trust that the bastard has rarely ever come across someone as tough and ready as you. I think he's going to be in for a surprise." Okay, Slashaholics, this has been chapters 16 and 17 of Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare by Jeremy Terry. Really enjoyed these chapters. We're really getting to the final act here. A lot of really cool character development here. Not just the whole thing where the staff had forgotten about the patients, which is cool. They just think they dreamt it. I love that Doc Cotto remembers them. You know, he's got this mind that can't be altered by Freddy. Very strong mind. And I love what he does later in the movie, at least. I'm curious to see what Jeremy does with the book version. The whole scene with Maggie and her mom, and Maggie digging through the closet, finding the adoption papers, really cool stuff. You know, God, wouldn't that just be crazy to find out? You know, your fucking dad is Freddy fucking Krueger. I mean, come on, it's got to be a fucking intense feeling. Not to mention that Maggie now apparently sees dead people. Or would it be non-existent people? I don't know. She saw John, though. I love Tracy getting ready for her next round with Freddy. Really cool scene that she knows what's coming, and instead of being scared and trying to run, trying to drink coffee, eat coffee grounds, she's going to prepare herself physically and mentally and get in there and do what she can. And I'm curious to see if there's some deviations from the script in the movie when she goes in next against Freddy and how that dream plays out. Hope you enjoyed these chapters. There'll be some more chapters coming very, very soon. I've also got a narration of Curse of the Jersey Devil Act 2, Chapter 10. I have that finished. I'm just doing a few more editing tweaks to it. It should be out tomorrow. Probably not very late, and you'll have more of Freddy's Dead soon after again. Once Freddy's Dead is finished, I'm probably going to start on Friday the 13th, Part 8. Jason Takes Manhattan, the fan novelization by Jeremy Terry. I also have plans to finish up Freddy vs. Ash and Final Destination, Destination Zero. A subscriber / patron is going to be a guest narrator of Freddy Krueger's Tales of Terror Blind Date. Check out Adeline's horror page. I'll put a link in the description. And I'll still be voicing Freddy for it. But that's going to be really cool having a guest narrator for that one. And that helps get that book onto the channel so that 6-book set can be finished a lot sooner. Because on my list it's a few books down. And this way we get it on there sooner. Also, I'm going to be narrating a new book by James Acosta called Nightmares. I'm looking forward to that. He's going to be getting that to me next week. So a lot of really cool stuff coming up on the channel. We're going to get to 100 audiobooks on this channel in no time, and we're going to have a big giveaway, big celebration when that time comes. If you want to support the channel, the best thing you can do is subscribe and spread the word. Click the like button, drop a comment below. Love to hear from all of you. Let Jeremy know what you thought of the chapters tonight and the book so far. And if you want to support the channel a little more than that, you can become a patron, a channel member. You can drop a super thanks comment on any video on the channel with a small tip, or you can tip through PayPal or Cash App, get a cameo video, or you can buy one of my books on Amazon, as well as books by Jeremy Terry, James Acosta, William Pattison. Links are usually in the description and pinned comment of every video for any of these things. But honestly, just having you here tonight listening to these chapters is awesome, and I appreciate each and every one of you. Until next time, this has been your friendly neighborhood 80s slasher librarian saying thanks for listening, be excellent to each other, and until next time, pleasant dreams! See you soon.
Time to wake up, the librarian is back. The librarian is back. The librarian is back in the slasher groove. It's time to wake up, it's time to wake up. No more distractions, no more co-host review shows. Just narrating slasher books for slashaholics. I'm done with those damn review shows. Done with being someone's co-host. I'm just narrating slasher books for the slashaholics. I'm done with those damn review shows. Done with being someone's co-host. I'm just narrating slasher books for the slashaholics. And when Jason walks in with his machete, or when you cross paths with Myers, or you dream of Freddy, whatever the tale, I'm gonna read it for you. Cause I'm the 80s fucking slasher librarian, Josh LaRue. Whatever I read, whatever you hear, there's one thing I'll promise year after year. You're gonna get the best of my best, this I promise you. Cause I'm back in that fucking bloody slasher groove. Because the librarian is back in the slasher groove. The librarian is back in that slasher groove. That's a promise from Josh LaRue. Slasher books both old and new, written by me and written by you. Yup, now I'm back, I'm back. No more distractions, no more co-host review shows. Librarian is back in that slasher groove. Just narrating slasher books for slashaholics. The librarian is back. I even wrote my own take on Jason and Freddy. Started with quarantine and then I was ready. So I sent Krueger to space in celestial slumber. Then Jason went primal and the rafters had his number. My audiobooks have crossed 75. Now let's hit 100 and have a fucking good time. The librarian is back in the slasher groove. The librarian is back in that slasher groove. Just narrating slasher books for slashaholics. The librarian is back. Even wrote my own take on Jason and Freddy. Started with quarantine and then I was ready. So I sent Krueger to space in celestial slumber. Then Jason went primal and the raptors had his number. My audiobooks have crossed 75. Now let's hit 100 and have a fucking good time. The librarian is back in the slasher groove. Just narrating slasher books for slashaholics. The librarian is back. The librarian is back in the slasher groove. It's time to wake up. It's time to wake up. No more distractions. My own take on Jason and Freddy. Started with quarantine and I was ready, so I sent Kruger to space in celestial slumber. Then Jason with Primal, and the Raptors had his number. My audiobooks have crossed 75. Now let's hit 100 and have a fucking good time. The librarian is back in the slasher groove, just narrating slasher books for slasher both old and new. Written by me and written by you. Yo, I'm back, no more distractions. No more distractions. No more co-host review shows.